We are moving these planes backwards because if they are forward, we won't be able to hide our text in the beginning of our animations. And in other words, our text will already be appearing before even the rotation of the layers happen inside of After Effects. So by moving the planes backwards, we can control the visibility of the text in our animations. So simply move each of the black planes backwards. And now if we were to look at behind the text, you can see all you have is black plates. Of course, that's what we want. And then let's return to what we're doing. By the way, what I showed you guys with the wire parameters is a section of 3D Max most people never get to see or appreciate, because most of them never get that far with animation. But of course, here at Henrythejedi.com, there are no limits to knowledge and creativity. Anyways, we're going to select our eye text over there, right click, wire parameters, transform, rotation, Z rotation, pick up the dummy, transform, rotation, Z rotation, and then of course it needs to come from the dummy to the object, so select that and connect them. And then of course test it for yourself, select the dummy and try and rotate it. Can you see? Now both text elements are moving at the same time by simply the control, of course, of one object. Okay, that's the power of dummies and wire parameters inside of 3D Max. Of course, we need to do the same with each of these. Transform, rotation, Z rotation, Z rotation. Again, it's a repetitive process, so you guys just go ahead and right click, wire parameters, transform, rotation, Z rotation, pick the dummy, transform, rotation, Z rotation, choose the arrow and connect them. So I'm going to join you guys, I'm going to pause again so that you guys can create the dummies for each of these layers. Of course, first concentrate on this one, okay? On this first row here of digitally, okay? I've gotten to this one now. Right click, wire parameters, transform, rotation, Z rotation, pick the dummy, transform, rotation, Z rotation, and connect. Now, as we speak, that first row, if I select the dummy and rotate it, can you see? The entire row is following the leader, of course. How great is that? And then we need to do the same with the transform text, but of course each of these must be linked to this dummy over there, okay? Because they cannot be linked both to the same one. So we're going to select that one, transform, right click, wire parameters, transform, rotation, Z rotation, pick that dummy with the Z rotation, connect, so that at this point now, if we rotate this dummy here, that text will rotate. Of course, go ahead and create the wire parameters for each of these layers below, so that they're all now. In other words, this second row of text must be linked to rotate B point helper, okay? And of course, I know you might think, but isn't there an easier way to link each of these to the dummies? Well, unfortunately, there's no easier way. That's why we're doing it individually, linking each of these to the dummies. Okay, so just be patient and wire your object. I'm somewhere there now. Wire parameters, transform, rotation, Z rotation, and of course finally that one over there. Okay, now at this point if you select that dummy, and of course if we try to rotate it, can you see the entire row below is rotating, of course, on the z-axis. Okay. And remember, we've only wired the z-axis because if we select any of these, if you rotate them around the x-axis, you can see they go well. But if you try and rotate around the z-axis, you see it simply refuses. It locks itself up. It's very furious because it's telling you, hey, why do you want to rotate me while you've already linked me to that dummy over there? That's why you cannot rotate any of these anymore on the z-axis. Okay, that's really one of the powers of 3D Max and point helpers. But of course, there are various uses of them, and of course here we are using them creatively. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to create the animation. Let's go to the front viewport. Okay, and then in here we're going to right click and then turn off the grid for now and check show grid so that we sort of have a clean area to work on. Let's change the rendering output by going to rendering render. Of course, people work with high definition. Of course, we by no means are going to miss the boat. So we are also up there. So we're going to select, for the output size, select HDTV. Yeah, the World Cup is coming to South Africa, so I really hope to watch it in high definition, you know. Yeah, we're going to select, of course, 1280 by 720. You can close that, and then come and right click on the front viewport label and then select show save frame, so that of course we can see exactly what will appear in the final animation. And then of course let's try and zoom in a bit like that. Okay, so what you're looking at is what your final render is going to contain. Let's start by animating the upper dummy, this one here. And depending on how many frames you want, but I think 100 frames to work on is a proper starting point. Okay, so we're going to turn on auto key, and as a starter we want the digitally transformed text to be rotated around. We're going to right click and then select wireframe. To start with, we want to rotate the text like that. As you can see, we're rotating it all the way to, let's say, 180 degrees, so that at this point we only have the back of the text. As you can see, of course, the back is black textured. And then click on auto key for that. As you can see, I'm rotating at to get exact rotating measurements, we use the angle snap toggle. Okay, and of course the text below also needs to be rotated accordingly. So we're going to select its dummy. The rotate bit dummy. I don't know why it doesn't appear in the viewport. There it is. Now with that dummy, we're also going to rotate it. But before that, we need to work on the animation of the text above. So I'm going to select smooth plus highlight. Let's move on, let's say, to 40 frames. Now here we want to rotate them, of course, at 180 degrees like that, so that at this point the animation will play as follows. It plays. You can see, of course, how the text comes. You see that? Okay. The texts are turning their heads. You see that? Like that. Okay. And then select the layer below, move to frame 0, and then let's select wireframe for now. Also move to frame 40, create a keyframe for it there, because at frame 40, of course, we want our text to look like that. And then move back to frame 0. We don't want the same kind of animations for both of them, because we want these layers here to be rotated in the opposite direction instead of coming like that. So we're going to select them, and then of course we're going to rotate them, as you can see, all the way to minus 180 degrees. Okay, basically this one will start from 180 degrees to 0 degrees to face us, and then this one will start from minus 180 degrees. Of course, you can see both are following a separate path, because this one is rotated at minus 180 degrees while the other is rotated, of course, at 180 degrees. If you play this now, you can see how each, of course, follows a different direction. I did that just because I wanted some dynamism with our text, because it will be boring if both texts rotate in the same direction. Okay, And then we're going to select both our dummies. Select the starting keyframe and then shift and drag them to, let's say, frame 10, so that we have a moment where it pauses before, of course, rotating like that. And then let's move on. Before the text wipes itself off, let's come here to frame 100 to frame 80. Select both dummies. Create a keyframe for them there by clicking on create key button. Move on forward. And then, of course, at this point, the text needs to disappear by being rotated again. Now, towards the end, starting with the digitally transformed text, we want it now to rotate the other way. So, we're going to rotate it like that up to, of course, minus 180 degrees, like that, okay? If I play this animation, you'll notice what happens now. Text rotates first like that, it settles, and then, yeah, it faces the other way, okay? Of course, now we're going to select the second text over there. And of course, it needs always to go the opposite way of what the other layer is doing, which means it will need to be rotated like that all the way to 180 degrees, as you can see. So let's play our animation. You see how they play, and then there we go. Okay, as I said, it's a simple, subtle animation, but really punchy. Okay, nice, eh? Now at this point we are ready to render so that we can export the scene in After Effects. Of course, make sure you position your text properly in the middle of the scene. Of course, just preview the render there, so that you can see, of course, how and whether the text is fitting nicely in the middle of the scene. That's why we have this show save frame option, so that we can see, of course, what makes it and what is a bit too far out. Okay, of course, this is looking quite good, I must say. So once we make sure the text is in the middle of the scene, we're going to render. We're going to render. Make sure it's a range, of course, and according to our timeline, we want to render from 0 to 100 frames. So we select the range of 0 to 100. Of course, the output size is high definition HD TV, 1280 by 720, and then we're going to, of course, we need to save the files. So we come in here under rendering output, click on files, and then create a folder for yourself. Call it digitally transformed. I'm going to save, copy this file name here, and paste it. Now, because we are going to be using some transparency from these layers, we need to use an animation sequence. So we're going to select it by using a PNG file, image file, like that. Hit on save, and then, of course, as you can see, it's asking us to save the alpha channel. So make sure you have the alpha channel saved, checked on, and RGB 24-bit will do. Okay. If you are not happy with a PNG animation, you can always select Targa, as long as the file will keep an alpha channel. An alpha channel, of course, happens to be a background, a transparent background that you might use in After Effects. Okay. Remember, we do not want to use a JPEG. Okay, JPEG tends to be low quality images, so PNG is a good file sequence to go for. As you can see, the render is on, and then simply hit render, and as you can see, of course, it will begin to render. At the beginning, don't worry, the frames will look black because there's nothing to see, and of course, as you can see, slowly but surely our text appears in the scene. And I'm sure you are very happy to the fact that it renders very quick. That's the way I like it these days, you know, quick animations to the point. So I'm going to pause this, and then we are going to bring these animation layers inside of After Effects. Now 3D Max is done, and we are now ready for post-production in After Effects. So we're going to go to File, Import File, and you can see, of course, I have my digitally transformed PNG sequence there. Select any of them, and then you're going to say the option there, PNG sequence, and then hit open. Bring it to a new composition. If I play this now, you'll notice what we have got. I just have one problem. My composition background is white, so I need to change it to a complete black. So go to composition, background color, make sure it's a total black texture. Yeah. So now at this point, of course, this is what we've got. So you can see, of course, what animation looks like. yeah, let's see what After Effects can do for us today. Let's go to the beginning for an animation. Let's say somewhere there. We need to add two particular effects for animation, and those are the blur and the glow. So I'm going to go to Effects, Blur and Sharpen, Gaussian Blur, and also Effect, Stylize, Glow. And now let's begin to manipulate the situation to our advantage. Let's move the Gaussian blur below the glow effect like that, and let's come towards the beginning here, especially where the text needs to come into place. And then click on the stopwatch for the Gaussian blur, and also on the stopwatch for the glow intensity. We need to see our keyframes, so we're going to press U on the keyboard so that it can reveal them, as you can see. And now at the beginning we want quite a lot of blurriness to go on for our text to appear, so we're going to change the Gaussian blurriness to 49. And of course it needs to be only on a particular axis, and so we're going to change the blur dimensions to vertical like that, so that you can see how it blurs them out in the beginning. Let's also create a stopwatch for the glow threshold and the glow radius, and then press U again so that we can of course reveal all of those. And in the beginning here we don't want any glow, so we're going to change the glow intensity to 0 like that. And let's just move a bit forward, I think, yeah, somewhere here. Yeah, move these keyframes there. And let's move on to a section where the text nearly begins to appear like that. And now of course we can begin to have some glow, so we're going to change the glow intensity there to 1. And a white glow is a bit too dull for us, so we're going to change the glow color, color A, to a light blue like that. And of course we need to tell 3D Max to use those colors, so we're going to change the glow colors to A and B colors like that. And then let's move on a bit forward in time, just around there. Let's increase the glow at this point here maybe to 2.8. And the blurriness to 73 to get it more blurry, of course. And then we're going to move to the part where the text finally settles around here. Change the blurriness to 0. We're looking for the point, of course, where the text settles finally. And then at this point, of course, the intensity of the glow can be set back to 1. And then we're going to move again a bit forward and then change the glow to 0 like that. So basically, let's preview what we have. I'm going to press 0 on the numpad so that you guys can see, of course, what we have so far. The text comes blurry, glow, the text settles. You see what we have so far, of course. Okay, nice. And then we are going to move on just before the text leaves the scene, around, let's say, this section there. Just before the text begins to rotate again, we are going to change the glow intensity to, let's see, okay, click on the stop, add a keyframe there for the glow intensity and the blurriness so that it keeps those settings, and then move forward in time just around there. Now we can give a glow intensity of 1. Okay, and let's just create keyframes there for the threshold and the glow radius. And of course keep in mind also the blurriness must still be held. And then we move on just when our text looks like, let's say, like that. We want a blurriness of 73 and a glow intensity of, let's say, 2.8. Okay. So when we preview our scene at this point, what we have is this kind of animation. You see that? Oh yeah, I like the glow and the blur. Very simple techniques, but already you can see where this is going. Okay. And one thing I can advise you guys is the timing of each of these keyframes here, because without the proper timing, either the glow will come too soon or too slowly, and you won't get much impact going on. And now let me reveal to you guys how we are going to pull off the technique where there are some blocks around. Remember the black boxes we created in 3D Max? They are still there. You can see that's why we are using PNG transparency, because we can hide them away. So now let me show you guys what we are going to do with them. We are going to add an adjustment layer to contain a nice light sweep to our animation. So we go to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer. And then we are going to add Effect, Generate, CC Light Sweep. Of course, can you see by doing that? You know what? I'm going to delete it so that you guys can see again what we did. We go to Effect, Generate, CC Light Sweep. Can you see what Light Sweep does? Of course, it reveals the blocks of ours that we had. And even if I move it around, can you see that? It nicely brings them out. I really don't know how does After Effects and 3D Max communicate to the point where you can be able to pull off this kind of animation. Indeed, this is just so amazing. These blocks, of course, are none other than those black boxes that we created inside of 3D Max. That's why I told you guys we needed them. And you can see, of course, what's going on. A white color for a light sweep is a bit too dull. So we're going to change the light color for the light sweep to a light blue. Like that. You can see how nicely that shines, of course, over our text. This is so stunning, I must say, ladies and gentlemen. Now, of course, timing. So, to properly time this animation of the light sweep, let's move on, let's see, to somewhere, to somewhere around this time here, okay? At the third keyframe there, like 1, 2, at this third set of keyframes. To control the position of the light sweep, we are going to create keyframes for the light sweep center, and then sweep intensity and edge intensity, okay? And then of course press U to reveal the keyframes so that we can be able to manipulate the light sweep. Now in the beginning we want an edge intensity of 0, and also we want the light sweep to be quite out of the scene, so we're going to move the light sweep center out of the scene like that. And then we're going to move on, let's say, to this particular section here. We're going to select those keyframes and simply duplicate them. So simply add stopwatches there so that the light sweep, of course, can still be waiting outside before it comes to invade the scene. Now we wait when the text are settled, when people are able to read our title. This is the time now when the light sweep can come through. So let's just move, let's say, up to there. Now of course we're going to move the light sweep. Where is it? Move it across the screen like that. And you might want these keyframes there to be a bit closer, because you don't want too quick a sweep and not too slow a sweep. You see what the light sweeping is doing at this point? Okay. You see that? It's passing, of course, quickly because its keyframe is there at this point. You might want to move it on. Now, at this point, we're going to change the edge intensity, let's say, to 44, like that. And of course, by adjusting the edge intensity, you can see it brings out our blocks even more, of course. In fact, you might even want to change it to 200 for that matter. Indeed, this is looking really good. Just move it in line with the edges center. You can see nicely how it's appearing. Okay. And now, before our text finally disappears, we want another light sweep. Okay. For instance, this is the first light sweep, right? Before the text disappears, we want another one. So here's what we're going to do. Of course, we're going to select all these keyframes here, copy, go to edit, copy, and then move somewhere forward in time, as you can see, and then edit, paste the keyframes. Of course, we've run out of space. Just go to composition settings, change the timing at this point, let's say to 5 seconds or so, so that we can move some of these. There we go. So I can move them back into the scene. Now of course analyze the scene so that the sweeping appears accordingly. and it seems it's coming a bit too late, so we're going to select those keyframes there, and then Alt and drag the last ones closer, and those ones also closer. Now it still needs to come even much closer than this. Okay, let's say, okay, this is the first one, right? And at this point here, you can see it has a tendency of coming back. We don't want that, so we are going to, okay, at this point here, select those two ending keyframes there. You can see that's where the Lightship is supposed to be at that point. Edit, copy, and then move on forward to there, and edit, paste those keyframes so that the Lightship doesn't come back. Okay, let's analyze that. This comes first light sweep. It doesn't come back, as you can see. No, it comes subtly. I think it has to do with the intensity. Let's zoom in. Yeah, I'm sure it's intensity that's really affecting it. We're going to change intensity to 0 at that point, because at that point it's supposed to be there. Even there, also change the intensity to 0. Yeah, like that. So that the first sweep comes, and then the sweep itself moves back into position before, of course, coming to shine again. I think those keyframes there also need to be 0. Double click that keyframe, enter 0. Double click that, it's 0. Okay. I think we still have a problem around somewhere here. As you can see, I'm just trying to analyze the scene. And let's see. Yeah, what is it doing there shining? We need to change that to 0. Yeah, of course, so that there are no shiny areas. Even that is also, of course, 0. Okay, I hope we've fixed that for now. Press preview. You can see what's happening. Oh yeah, so now we have, of course, two glows, and each happening very subtly and very nicely. So you can see what we have. The first glow, second glow comes and wipes off the text, of course. Okay, now that's a nice animation that we're having indeed. And there you have it. That's the digitally transformed tutorial. I really like the fact that it's still simple, but yet it has a nice punch to it. And in fact, just one more thing you might want to do is the following. Pre-compose the composition to a new composition, and then press S so that you can play around with the scaling, so that as the text comes, it just gets, of course, a bit bigger. Of course, be careful not to make it so big that people can't read it anymore. It might start small, and then come to, let's say, 100%. Okay. Of course, you press F9 to make this an easy ease key. So, of course, you can see now what you're going to have. And even as the text settles, you might still want to continue scaling it a bit. Okay. Now that's great. Okay. I really like this effect. There we go. Digitally transformed. So, for all of you guys, fellow animators and digital artists out there, the digitally transformed training DVD is coming to you on the 5th of May 2010, which will be the same day on which we celebrate our 2nd birthday. So, see you guys then, and thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, au revoir, pote. Okay.